I saw recently in the internet, in the newspapers, that in the Middle East, these cave dwellers give the idea of how things have been in the past, and they have been in this tradition for a long while and so on. And I beg to differ that these are not the original cave dwellers, and they do not reflect the whole socio-cultural, developmental experiences of those who resorted to the caves in the past. Now, why did people live in caves? Some people are trying to say that the winters were harsh or whatever environment they were trying to escape and so on. I don't agree with that. I believe that in the beginning, God created giants because they were created Lord of the angels. They were about 18 feet tall, and they were supposed to perfect their lives, pass the test, don't eat the food that they ate, and then when a number was reached equal to the devils who were cast out of heaven, then they would have stopped reproduction, they would have been transformed into immortal, become like angels, and just going off and serve God and do the angelic work. Because that's the whole purpose why earth was created, to replace the devils when they finally were cast out the third. And so, very quickly, and you see, you got to understand the temptation of Adam and Eve. It was very profound and very subtle and very dangerous, in that the devil realized that, or he knew that these humans would replace him and his angels, so of course he's going to fight fiercely. He discovered that he had been trying in other worlds to accomplish the same feat, all right, but he had not succeeded there. And what he discovered was that whenever the husband and wife were together, it was tough, because when he said something and she don't understand, he understood, and when he said something and he don't understood, she understood, and so they had a perfect concept, and they were able to discriminate and make some right decisions. So what he did, he separated Adam and Eve. She went off perhaps looking at the flowers, and he went off trying to get some heavy work done. And he came in and he told her that, yeah, you could be like God. He doesn't want you to be this way. He doesn't want you to eat this fruit. And she tried it. And he said, you're going to die. Look, I'm touching it and not dying. And you see, they didn't understand the concept of death, or they hadn't been experienced with death. They figured that perhaps you'll die immediately. And so when she saw him handle it and he didn't die, she tried it, she didn't die, ate it, she hadn't died. And she took some for Adam, and he, I guess, his wife, anyway, both of them, because they were separated, they got tied up and they sinned. And so the devil was rejoicing and jubilant because he had thwarted the plan of replacing him. He obstructed God's government and God's program. So he started the work of rebellion and sin. He got Cain to kill Abel. And Adam went on and had other sons, including Seth. Other sons and daughters, they were born in pairs, okay? And so they were even different because although they were born in pairs, they were able to have sex and have kids, and they weren't like incest. It wasn't incest because this incest thing comes from a degeneration. And it was God's plan that this is the way it's going to be done. So they were born in pairs. Maybe each ovary produced an ovum that was male and female, and both were, okay, we ain't go for that. So after Cain killed Abel, he was scattered away, and he went and they started to try all kinds of ways to dehumanize and to destroy God's plan. So they started having sex with other animals that brought them down from this big stature of 18 feet tall to, start looking different. So after the population of the world increased, they came together. They started living close. So it was a distinct mark. Here are the sons and daughters of God. Here are the sons and daughters of Cain, or men. And they were different. They started to change. And so eventually they all intermarried and they all had sex. So today, everybody, by the time Noah time came around, everybody had amalgamated or had been amalgamated into this sort of animal thing. So Adam and Eve, they weren't animals, but after people had sex with animals, then they became animals. Maybe I could throw this, and I'll leave that for another time, but digestion and so forth, because they were vegetarians then. Today we're not, because we have an animal in us, and we have developed this eye tooth. So in the sex, if you have a lamp having sex with a bottle, you're gonna have kids in between. or actually use an illustration. If you use a man and a gorilla, you're going to have some kids looking like the gorilla, some looking like the man, and some in between. And each is going to, those who look like man will have recessive gorilla, and those who look like gorilla are going to have recessive humans. And in between is going to be almost an equal, sort of thing. So what happened is those humans, they're born in the society, and those who look like the gorillas couldn't stay with those who look like humans. So those who look like gorillas, but weren't gorillas perhaps, had to go into the caves and escape because they couldn't live like the gorillas. They can't fight like them, not strong like them, and they're not humans. So they went into the caves, and they had some human intelligence because they started drawing things on the walls and all that kind of stuff. So this is, I think, what they were doing. They resorted to protection in the caves. They weren't gorillas, they weren't humans. And even those in the caves, when they have kids, some again are going to be born looking like humans, some were born like gorillas. They could come out and go to the gorillas, those and come out and go to the humans. And at this point, incest or marrying your relative, your close relative, or even your sister, begin to show up abnormalities, retardation and certain genetic problems, and very organs and systems would be not as efficient as they should have been. And so this is the whole point. Cave people were in there because they weren't humans nor animals. So these people here look very normal. It's just that perhaps they're going in there because of they find a home. They don't have to construct a home, and maybe they were being persecuted. They went into there and they survived up to today. So when I saw these cave people, I said, wow, this is so different from the original cave people. And they come with all this thing that they try to speculate about in history about the people and so on. But just like in Mendes' theory, when he put tall and a short piece together, he saw like there was a variation between 1 to 3. Out of 4, 1 is going to be different and 3 going to be the same. So either 3 going to be tall and 1 short, 3 short and 1 tall. And they have recessive and dominant genes, and down the road it keeps coming back and so forth. So that's the way I understand this cave experience here.